My name is Fatou Janha. I'm the coordinator for the Oyster Women Association of the Gambia. It's an association where women do oysters, harvest oysters, process oysters, at the same time take care of the mangroves. These women are the sole breadwinners in the households. They mostly come from Casamas or from Guinea-Bissau originally, but they have been living here all their lives. So they are very poor and they've been marginalized. They've been marginalized because they believe that they either go and do shell fishery or they go to the house to be household helpers. As you can see in this slide I'm showing you, they work under very poor conditions. They are isolated. This is the woman here preparing to go to sea. As you can see, the surrounding that the environment that she is not very conducive. The women, they are aware of the fact that they have to protect the ecosystem and to gain their livelihood, because their livelihood depends on the mangroves. At the same time, they have to protect the mangroves, because if the mangroves die off, they don't earn their living again. So the oysters are attached on the roots of the mangroves. So that is why they have to protect the mangrove, rejuvenate the mangrove, and harvest the oysters properly from the stem of the mangroves, so they don't harm they can get the oysters without harming the mangroves. At the same time, not interfering too much with the eggs of the other fishes that are under this mangrove. So you can see as we are here, we go looking for them, we train them in the river, talk to them, let them understand the use of the mangroves, which they all understand now. But this is some of the things that we did with them before they understood what we are talking about. So, and one of the things that we did was to organize ourselves. Before they were working, we were all in isolations. They were all working in clusters. There was no one to help them. So we said, okay, we came together, form an association, get the 15 communities, the women in 15 communities. First, we started with 40 women, and then in one community, and then all the 15 communities came to join us, and we formed a co-management planning process. So this involved, what it involves was we took them on study tours. Like the first visit we did was in Senegal, where they went to see their fellow women, what they're doing, how they process oysters, how they harvest oysters properly and cockles, and so on and so forth. So the program involved a lot of things. It's integrated programs. Like there was adult literacy. We trained the women who could not read and write to be able to read and write basic things like, your name, so that when they go to the hospital, they will know what to do, how to talk to the doctors. And then we taught them microfinancing, not per se microfinancing, but how to save their money. But because before, these women did not save money. They just put the money under their beds or under the shells of the oysters. And then, they didn't have proper savings. So they only depend on those ways of saving their money, and it wasn't good. And also their health was important. We believe that you can't have a healthy environment where you don't have healthy people. So we also bring in health workers to train them on certain issues like health, their cancer screening, and proper ways of taking antibiotics, and how to manage malaria, and so on and so forth. That was one thing. Another thing we did was also to get their children to come over, to train them, because we thought the children were a burden to the women, and the women will also there'll be more burden on the oysters, on the mangroves. So we brought the women over, the children, and then we trained them on ways of making money, like basic business, and also tie and dye, for example, bread making, and so on and so forth. So that was. Then, as you can see in this picture, the mangrove stewards and champions mobilizing their communities. The mangrove, they understand the use of the mangroves. So the whole community comes in to replant the mangroves as they deplete. So this is the picture where all the women are involved. You can see we had to involve everybody in the community because the young men and the young boys would go and play football and destroy the mangroves. But involving them in the planting of the mangroves made a big difference because they understood what we are doing. So we also, this is how we were able, through what we were doing, through all these programs, the government was able to give us this exclusive use right to manage the oysters and the cockles in the Tanbi. The Tanbi is a Ramsar area, it's a national park, so it's very important. So it was interesting. It was very, we are very proud to say that the government has given us the exclusive use right to manage these resources. It doesn't happen in, at least we haven't seen that in sub-Saharan Africa. So the co-management plan was also, it was also gazetted. It was accepted by the government and gazetted. So we control the mangroves, and we take care of it, and we police the mangroves. We stop people from chopping the mangroves and building homes or making firewood, and all these things. So it is interesting to see that the women have also decided to close down the season. The oyster season normally should be 8 months of the year, but because there were more and more women doing oysters, and because of climate change, they decided to close it. And instead of 8 months, they do oyster production in 4 months. And the 4 months, it's not difficult. And all the women observe this policy. It was made by them. They are the ones who say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We have to find a solution because the oysters are growing smaller and smaller, and because of climate change, it's getting worse and worse, and there are so many people doing oysters. So let us see what we can do. Let us change our ways of harvesting the oysters. Instead of using knives, they will use axe. And let us also see what happens after when we rest in the mangrove for 8 months. So when they did this, it was very effective because they realized that the oysters grew bigger, and then they had more money, even though it's difficult for them to stay 8 months of the year without doing anything. So those 8 months, they stay in the homes, and they engage themselves in other petty businesses. Some of the women will go and look for crabs, some of them will use for cockles, and some of them will use for small fishes in the river, or others will go back to household work. So as you can see, this is a great picture of the women sitting down voting. Now, we see that it is important if you give them the rights, if you give the women the voice, if you have given them the power to able to make decisions on their own, then everything works, and for food security and for their livelihood. So these are the women who voted. They are voting to say, okay, this is what we want to do, and we are going to do it. So they are now in the decision-making table, which gives them the privilege, and they are proud, and they have been empowered. So we say you empower the right people, and you will get what you want. So as you can see this picture, the women we are along the Tanbi. The Tanbi is a very important place. It is, as I said, it's a Ramsar area, it's a national park, and the women live around this area. They're in 15 communities in the Tanbi, namely from Joshua all the way to, although for those who know the Gambia, all the way to Bafloto. So it is as long as 6,300 hectares of oysters, and they are protected. They are better protected and better managed by the women. So we realize that with this management program, the value chain, the oysters have gone up. The price of oysters have really increased compared to what we started before. So another thing we realize is that peer-to-peer education is very important. The women from Ghana, the Ghanaian women went all the way to Ghana on a project to visit the Ghanaians and to see what they were doing. And the Ghanaian in return came to the Gambia to visit the Gambia to see what the women are doing, to learn from them. And by doing so, they were also given the exclusive use right to manage the dense estuary in Ghana. Another thing we did was visiting the Gambia. The Gambians went to Ghana, and they went to Benin, and from Benin, they went to Togo, and we realized that all these women are doing the same work. We realized that peer-to-peer learning is very crucial here. Thank you very much for your patience and for your attention.